It's all great if you want to talk through these things and talk to some of your friends about some of the ideas that you have. But if you're not willing to take that step forward and take action on those ideas, they're going to remain ideas and they're going to remain dreams.
Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like five.
I've just been talking about what can we do better. I've been trying to work on is talking with our kids. Like I did a call with a kid, how to move up the draft board. So I mean, playing football and all the on the field stuff, that's just one aspect. Scouts are looking for a way to knock you down. So a way that we can do that is how do we handle everything off the field. And right now, these guys are on workouts. They just finished camp. It's a pivotal time for them to kind of step into leadership roles and earn that C on their chest as they go into it. Because when scouts are evaluating, they want to know who's a leader in the locker room and who's going to be a leader on the field. So if we can kind of get our guys to start thinking about that ahead of time and not just during fall when September rolls around, we need them to be a leader now in June, July, August, so they can be set up for September, October, November, and on.
Yeah, I don't think players really recognize the importance of character and how much it really plays into who you are as a person on the field, but also off the field. When you look at the NFL isn't 1,500 of the best athletes and football players in the country. It's who are community leaders, who are people who are making an impact, but also putting people in the stands. At the end of the day, it's a business, and if people don't want to watch you on Sundays, if you're making yourself and your team look badly, you look at Antonio Brown from his time with the Bucks. Him ripping his pads off, taking his shoulder pads, running around like it's Little League football. That's the last thing the NFL wants. And so, really, if you can understand how to develop yourself as a community leader off the field, I think it's going to set yourself up for a lot more opportunities to have success at the next level.
Margins for error, like in the NFL, are just so slim. There's 10,000 kids coming out trying to get into these 53-man rosters. And so you got to have every box checked. And so as he's talking about Antonio Brown, that's a unique case where he has all this talent. But even all the talent in the world is not going to save you if you don't have your off-the-field issues handled. And so that's one thing we try to work with our guys, is helping them be better men off the field.
Josh, tell me a little bit about what you look for in a player through your conversations when you're initially starting the recruiting process.
I mean, right off the bat, talent, the ability to play at the next level, whether it's at the XFL, the CFL, the USFL, or the NFL. Talent is one of the first things I look for when recruiting athletes. Another thing I look for is also marketability. We are a professional agency. We're also a marketing firm, but we're looking for those lucrative deals for our athletes. Social media presence, how to use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and making sure they're posting the right things. Making sure they're posting things about things they enjoy. If they like fishing, they have fishing things up there. They're building their brand. I don't necessarily look for that blue check mark. Of course, it's great, but it's not the end of the world if they're not, verified on social media. One big thing I look for is the willingness to be coached and how they receive feedback from us when we tell them, we want you to improve your engagement on Instagram, or if they're working out with Yo Murphy or one of their trainers, what they can improve upon on the field, where we can teach them things they learn off the field. So I think those are three big factors that I look at when recruiting athletes to join EAMG Sports.
I think there's a lot of misconception when it comes to who's marketable. Once I've heard that, there's 5 kids on a football team who are actually marketable. And I don't really think it necessarily comes down to the eyeballs and impressions that brands are looking to capitalize on. I think being a brand spokesman for a brand has a whole lot more that falls into it, such as talking about your character. Brands want to work with players that are going to make them and their business look good, whether it's a play on the field or what they're doing in the community off the field. I think brands are looking for players who, if there's a community event going on and that brand is associated with that event, they want that player to genuinely want to be there and genuinely want to give back and share their experiences and some of the storytelling that they had the opportunity to share with some of the guys that are coming up around them. you look at the community, the reason these guys have the platform that they do is, one, they've shown that they're willing to endure adversities and work through challenges that, a lot of people face. I think, there's an image kind of painted around professional players that, they're put on this pedestal, but at the end of the day, they're human just like you and I are. And, we have to understand that, there's going to be guys who make mistakes, but how quickly do you get up after making a mistake, and what do you do to answer to that, I think is a huge piece.
I couldn't agree more with that. And, just kind of to piggyback on what you were saying, I know one thing that we focus on here is that authentic storytelling, where we can leverage, the upbringing and the life of our athletes to make these deals with these brands unique. We don't want our deals to be the same boring commercial you see on TV, you see on Instagram and TikTok. That's what makes us unique, is how we leverage those stories. And I think that's one thing that we should be doing more.
The personal brand storytelling is definitely something I like how we've taken an initiative to do. I mean, we spend countless hours just going over brainstorming creative strategies. How can we bring value to this brand? I mean, we were talking today about unique ideas. So we looked at the Instagram page of that business and we saw what kind of content they were trying to produce. And then we know the athletes and the clients that we're able to work with. Having the team and kind of brainstorming and bouncing ideas off of each other is one thing I love that we're able to do. And but going to your point about like building the brand and the storytelling, if you want to work with brands, how is a brand going to know what your story is if all you're posting about is football? You're all more than just football players. And so kind of doing what you can to separate yourself. You mentioned fishing. And another thing I wanted to post on or touch on is that we talked about community. And these players are able to drive community engagement and build that kind of following based off of their social media platforms because they see the younger kids look up to them, see them in the jerseys. Well, they also see when you're on Snapchat and you're posting curse words, F this, F that, all that stuff matters. And I mean, if you think it's on Snapchat, it'll go away in 24 hours. That could be true, but the NFL has a way of finding the dirt that they need to. And so just be conscious of what you're putting on social media. Keep it clean, guys.
Yeah, reputation is everything. You have to guard it with your life. And, if it's not something that your family would be proud of, I don't think anybody else is going to be proud of it either. So really understand, the message that you're putting out and think about the eyeballs who, are looking up to you as someone who's a leader in the community. Think about and ask yourself the question, who's the type of person that I would look up to? Would I look up to somebody who's, going out every weekend with their friends and turning up at the club? I mean, that's great. You always have to kick back with your guys, but at the end of the day, what is the type of leader that you want to be, and what is the message that you want to leave behind with your career?
Don't get me started on the going out every weekend train. I mean, it's always fun to go out and be in the club and have fun with your boys, but most of you kids, if you're in college, you're likely under 21. Let's try to be conscious of what we're posting about. Stay clean with it. As mentioned before, there's a lot of young kids looking up to you. Set the example of the type of guy they want to be. If you want to post on the weekend, you're going to go to the club, that's fine. Show that you're also putting in that Saturday morning workout session, which you guys likely are. You're just leaving that out because it's part of your daily routines.
So when it comes to the sports agency industry, I think there's a lot of misconception on really, what an agent's role is. At the end of the day, aside from negotiating the best possible contract on the field, agents have to bring value to what the players can do off the field. And part of that is creating opportunities to generate revenue for yourself in a marketing capacity. From an agency's perspective, though, looking at that, an agency has to bring value to two people. One, they have to prove value and show why they ought to work with that player and why the player would want to work with them. At the same time, they have to bridge that gap together with the brand. They have to prove to the brand why the brand would want to work with them, why it would make sense, what the return on their investment would be, and how they can utilize an athlete's unique story. So it's not just about finding an athlete who has a ton of followers or has a very strong engagement rate. It's about understanding that brand's unique message and their values and their core strengths as a business, and finding an athlete who aligns with that. You know, you can put great content together. It could be, you know, the best shot commercial you've ever seen. But if it doesn't align with that brand's values and message, it's not going to perform well. It's not going to do well.
One thing I think EAMG provides a different value add than a lot of agencies because we're a team of entrepreneurs. Over here, Jake, myself, Josh, we all started from the ground floor, so we have a shift in mindset. I feel like sometimes working with bigger agencies or just other companies, you're dealing with employees. And so if you're really trying to develop as an individual and expand your mind and the options that you can go, test your agent and see what are they doing to further themselves both as an individual, as a professional, and spiritual, physically, all of that.
Yeah, I think it really ties into our holistic approach. I mean, granted, we offer services such as performance coaching with a performance psychologist and access to resources like guys like Gil Murphy and getting some of the highest level training possible. But, you know, what are you doing to develop the human being as a whole? You know, how are you teaching them about financial literacy? How are you showing them different opportunities where they're able to set themselves up for success post-career, dabbling in entrepreneurship? You know, what are the type of things that they're passionate about and like working with? I think the best businesses to invest in aren't necessarily always a numbers decision. I think it comes down to like, what do you understand and what are you passionate about? Because if you're simply trying to get into business, trying to make money, you may do well for a 6-month window, or you may do well for a period of time. But eventually, you know, if that passion's not there, that desire's not there to really grow, you know, you're going to cash out and walk away. You know, you're not going to really help, you know, make that a sustainable business. You don't get into business simply to make money. You get into business to stay in business. And so, you know, really focusing on sustainability, you have to figure out why you're passionate about what you're getting involved in.
I think that's a really great point. I was reading a book recently, and it talked about you want missionaries, not mercenaries. Now let's draw the distinction. Over here, no one's working for a paycheck. Everybody's here because they want to be here, they love the industry, and they're passionate about the kids that we have. And I think that's kind of what sets us apart. You want to know whether or not your agent or the team around you really cares. See what they're doing for you when the money's not coming in. I mean, are they still doing those bi-weekly calls? Are they still trying to help you develop a brand? Are they still pushing you even though you haven't put $1 in their pocket? So, I mean, that goes back to what you were saying. Passion will take you way further than a paycheck.
We are the EAMG family. We have your back, whether you know it or not. And that goes for all of our athletes. Marketing deals aside, professional contracts aside, we will always be there for you.
No, I mean, I constantly tell the guys, like, I don't care if it's 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, like, if you need something, if you need someone to talk to, call me. If I see your call come through, I'm going to pick it up. I'm here to be a resource. I'm not just to be, you know, an agent for you trying to pursue the best marketing deal or the best on-the-field contract. At the end of the day, we're here to help you as a human being and understand, you know, what some of the pain points you're struggling with. Because at the end of the day, if you get bogged down and fall into a mental trap or a mental hole because of some of the adversities you're facing, you're not going to perform to the best of your ability, whether that's on the field or off the field. So it really comes down to, you know, keeping our guys in a good position, whether it's mentally or physically.
So we were talking about potential pitfalls and opportunities for players to kind of slip up. One of those situations would be as after the season, as the pre-draft process is going, guys are going to get a lot of interest and they're going to be conducting a lot of interviews with NFL executives. Now this can be a nerve-wracking time. And so I think it's really important to, as we were talking about, know your story, know your why, and just keep it short and simple.
Yeah, less is more. I think, you know, really just understand, like to your point, understand your story, understand the point that you want to get across, and don't say anything more. Because all you're going to do is, the more you talk, you're going to open yourself up to saying something that you may or may not should have said. And you know, you don't need to try to sell anything out there. You're not out there trying to make any specific points. You're not a politician. You're a football player. So keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it simple, and keep it positive.
Don't be somebody you're not.
If you're lucky enough to be a day one, day two kid, NFL teams and personnel executives are going to be banging on your door trying to get an opportunity to speak to you. Now, it's important if you're on the flip side, you're a day three, priority free agent, undrafted free agent, to work with somebody who you know is passionate about what they're doing. That's where it comes back to being a missionary, not a mercenary. The money may not always be there up front, but if you have someone who's passionate about what they do, like we are, my job is just to make sure when it's time to make a decision, I've done everything in my power to bang on the doors of all 32 and as many contacts within that 32 to get you a shot.
Speaking on entrepreneurship earlier, for those who haven't, ventured down the path of entrepreneurship before and really just want to get their feet wet and kind of understand what it means to be a business owner, what do you think is some good opportunities that athletes could pursue that would be a low risk and low investment where they'd be able to learn from their mistakes and fail often, fail quickly, and learn to move forward?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. One value I take in my life: fail early, fail often. And so if you can kind of, I think I've heard you say it, Jake, in one of the Robert Greene books, the difference between a successful individual and an average individual is, do they fall under their failures or do they stand on top of their failures? An entrepreneurial venture that we've recently started dabbling in is Turo and rental cars. Now, if you have decent credit, you can get into a car without too much investment, possibly no down payment, and that's a chance for you to kind of learn about bottom line, profit margins, and just being a professional individual outside of the football field.
Absolutely, I think Turo is a great place to get started. But you need to do your homework. You need to do your research. Understand what is the market looking for in a vehicle. Put yourself in the shoes of, instead of being the owner of that Turo business, put yourself in the consumer's shoes. What kind of car would you want to rent? What car would be convenient for you? What would be good on gas? What would be a good investment? So you think about cars that have low depreciation rates, because at the end of the day, if you're going to the bank to go and borrow that money, you want to make sure if this business doesn't go as planned, you're able to get out of that asset with very low loss. So you want to look at cars with very low depreciation rates. I also think about cars that people would want to drive. I think a car that's really popular out on the market right now is a Tesla. I think there's a lot of cars already out there on Turo that are Teslas, but you don't have to worry about gas. You're only thinking about the cost of what it costs to charge the car. Maintenance fees may be a little bit lower than your typical car, but you want a car that is a hot product, and if it's not a hot product, no one's going to drive it. I was speaking to somebody today about it actually, who had a friend who launched a Turo business. Went and bought an F-150, bought a Mini Cooper, and a Ford Focus. All great cars. However, Turo business didn't go well. Cars didn't move like he thought they were going to move. Weren't running out as often as needed, and those cars have very high depreciation rates. So when he tried to get out of those assets, he actually lost money in the process. I think another avenue is launching a drop shipping store. So if you are able to get with a graphic designer or get with someone who can create a logo for you, whether it's a logo to your personal brand or it's just a cool logo design that you think would go well on a t-shirt or on a hoodie or a hat, something like that, it's not hard to launch a Shopify storefront. I think the annual cost on running your Shopify store is about $300 a year. And there's great platforms out there like Printful, where you're able to connect Printful to your Shopify store and utilize dropshipping. Printful is going to handle all of the inventory for you, so you're not going to have to carry inventory. They're going to handle fulfillment for you, so they're going to go out and ship the products that you're selling. And you don't have to worry about the overhead of carrying that inventory and dispersing it out. So I think a great first step. If you don't want to dabble in something as big as a Turo business, is launch a clothing line. Get your personal brand out there. Even if you're not making much money off of the clothing line, you're getting your personal brand image out there. And it's a great way to involve the community in your business affairs and what you're doing on and off the field.
Look at EAMG client, Gunnar Greenwald. He's passionate about surfing. He's passionate about the beach. Anything being outside. He launched his brand like a month ago. It's called Mom, I'm Going Surfing. Did it all by himself. Shirts, hats, you name it, he's got it. He took a bet on himself. He's learning while he does it. And I think that's a great success story because he's had sales. He's marketing it. He's putting it on social media by himself. And I think it just proves that anybody can do it.
And I think at the end of the day, though, you know, whatever the business venture may be, whether it's opening a restaurant or launching a clothing line or starting a tour business, it's all great if you want to talk through these things and talk to some of your friends about some of the ideas that you have. But if you're not willing to take that step forward and take action on those ideas, they're going to remain ideas and they're going to remain dreams. So you can talk about all these business ideas all you want, but if you're not willing to take that first step to take action and be willing to fall on your face at times, you're not going to be able to pursue anything meaningful.
Goes right back to standing on top of your failures. Fail early, fail often. You know, you were talking about Gunnar Greenwald and his mom and going surfing, MGS. He's telling a story with that brand, for sure. And a lot of guys can kind of look at that for inspiration. But we've noticed some guys kind of have trouble figuring out what is their brand. And so that's somewhere we've kind of tried to address a market need. We're thinking about dropping a personal branding playbook. And we think using this, we could help some guys figure out who they are, how to slowly build a brand, because nothing was built overnight, and determine if this is something they want to pursue.
So if you're looking to get a hold of EAMG's personal branding playbook, reach out to partnerships at EAMG Sports to learn more.